So, hello, we are the Linux lads. My name is Connor.
My name is Shane.
My name is Mike.
And we are just a bunch of Irish lads. What we decided was we're just going to do a bit of a podcast here. So, if you want to get in contact with us, we are also all organisers of the Dublin Linux user group, dublinlinux.org, but this is not anyway affiliated with that. It's just if you want to get in contact with us, it's probably the best way to get in contact with us there. That group also does monthly meetups, so if you want to come and hang out with us in the pub, you can also do it there. So probably the first topic that we have here is we're going to it's a bit late at this stage, but we're beginning to talk about Ubuntu 18.04, which is quite a big release because it's an LTS. It's an LTS long-term support release, and also the fact that they've switched over from Ubuntu Unity over to the GNOME desktop environment. So, Mike, what are your thoughts really about the whole Ubuntu 18.04 and that as a platform?
Well, I just think it's a massive consolidation on the side of Ubuntu for, all of the platforms. So they basically come up with a platform that anybody can build anything on top, and people do. Obviously, you have a plethora of distributions from Mint, Elementary, Neon, Zorin. All of these and many more are built on it, and they have something. Canonical takes care of the base, and you just put stuff on top of it. And as far as it's been a while, as you mentioned, it's been a while for a few months now. They are on the 0.1 release now, and it seems to be all good. GNOME works for everybody so far, and for those who don't, there are plenty of other distributions based on it.
Yeah, I like the fact that they're consolidating on GNOME. When they were off doing their own thing, Ubuntu Unity, it was, some people loved it, some people didn't really like it, but it was kind of perceived as them going off and doing their own thing. Whereas going back to the GNOME desktop environment, it's kind of consolidating back to you have the likes of Red Hat with Fedora's working on it. You've Ubuntu, not Ubuntu, but OpenSUSE and SUSE Linux are all developing on it. So it's kind of more brains in the pot dealing with GNOME. So the fact that they're switching over back to GNOME, it's kind of all the one boat raises, or the sea raises all boats, or whatever different that phrase is. So Shane, what are your thoughts really on the whole Ubuntu 18.04?
As you mentioned, I think the only major change is that I would be aware of would be the change from Unity to GNOME, because obviously I've always been a fan of GNOME. I didn't really like the way GNOME 3 went. Was that GNOME 2 or GNOME 3 when they shifted to this kind of...
Oh, it's GNOME 3.
This gesture
I don't
thing.
Like it. Yeah,
this gesture-based menu kind of thing, trying to ape a KDE or something. I don't know what that was all about. But that was... I still prefer GNOME to Unity because I'm a sane human being. and Unity, I could see what they were trying to do. They were trying to do this whole convergence thing. They were trying to have a very common UI feel between mobile and desktop. I think that was the whole point of Unity to begin with. But I don't know, just as long as they got away from that desktop, that's good. Because I think it's horribly inefficient just with that thing on the side. What was that I
think the GNOME desktop, they actually pretty much mimic the functionality and looks of Unity as much as they can with the GNOME desktop.
With the canonical or Ubuntu customization of GNOME, what they're doing is they're making the transition quite a bit easier for people who are used to 16.04, which was the previous LTS, which was using Ubuntu's Unity, and so they're emulating the visuals of Unity a bit with the persistent dock on one side. I think that's just for people who have that muscle memory, is to make them happy. But vanilla stock GNOME I don't like at all. The whole thing of when they're with their file manager, Nautilus, they were slowly but steadily getting rid of features, and now I think they're realizing what they got rid of too many features, and they're starting to add them back. But they're starting to add them back under some weird hamburger menu off to one side, and so it's kind of an afterthought. So much so that things that have been forked off GNOME 2, for example, the Cinnamon desktop environment, with their file manager Nemo. I find that is the best GNOME file manager out there. It's modern GTK3, which is based off the GNOME stack, but has all the features that you're expecting. In other words, none of the features that GNOME got rid of in their version of Nautilus, which they're now calling files. I think they're just trying to be very Mac-like in the fact that they're keeping things very simple, and they're even simplifying the names, going from Nautilus to just files or maps or things like. There's no maps, and they're just calling it maps and stuff like that. Like the GNOME video player, I think they're just calling it video or some weird shit like that. Oh yeah, and probably a good thing to mention at this stage. This would not be a safe for work podcast. Occasionally, an occasional swear will come out, so we're not going to bleep it. If it comes out naturally, we're not going to bleep it. Excuse me. But yeah, so the whole thing of the simplification of GNOME with GTK3 or GNOME Shell 3, I should say, not GTK 3, as it's just I think they're going when they're designing it. I think they're expecting the whole convergence thing, that because Ubuntu was doing that with Unity at the time, they're thinking, holy crap guys, this is going to start running on tablets and everything. And I don't tablets kind of went by a bit with the wayside. They're saying this is going to run on tablets and phones and everything, so we're going to keep things really simple and the icon's really big because it's going to be touch screen. But for the benefit of the audio, I actually was doing the whole touchscreen thing. But yes, and I think that just kind of fell by the wayside. That whole UI paradigm. In terms of the look of the Ubuntuified GNOME, I much prefer it over stock GNOME. But at the moment, I think is the killer is Kubuntu or KDE Neon, which is based off 1804 as well.
I've seen KDE. I was never a KDE fan myself, but I've seen it recently and it looks really nice.
Yeah, and the criticism for the longest time was KDE was very bloated, and in the KDE 4 days it was a valid argument. But there's been cases where they're saying that not only does KDE 5 look absolutely beautiful, it's probably one of the best designed desktop environments at the moment. Is there also I think they're saying that you can get it running on something like 500 or 600 megabytes of RAM or something, and it's actually in the latest versions they're really honing in on it, really refining. The versions are, I think they're up to 513 or something like that. But in the latest versions, apparently they're just honing down on the resources, and it can actually run on something surprisingly slim. So much so that the whole LXDE thing, where LXDE is now moving over to LXQT. I think one of the lead developers, or the name just doesn't come to me at the moment, but I think one of the lead developers was literally saying, like, we're going to be a slimmed down QT desktop, but if the actual KDE can run on 4 or 5 megabytes of RAM or whatever it is, then what's really the point? So what's our USP or unique selling point is kind of been eaten into by the fact that KDE is just really slim at the moment.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what they're on their latest blog. They're saying, like, guys, we're going to have to think of something else because we can't be just this slim QT desktop.
That's because like I remember I was saying earlier, like I would love to get something a little bit more lightweight for this thing, this Entroware Apollo. Yeah. But the thing is, like, XFCE is what I would originally go for. I wouldn't even think of LXDE really, because I think it's quite fugly.
It's extremely fugly.
Like XFCE,
it's very like Windows 2000 era.
Oh yeah, XFCE is at least does something.
It's at least XP era.
it has something to it. It has a kind of a shoddy charm to it. Like, but like Yeah, no, like if KDE, if you what you're saying is true, like, and that can run on such slim specs, like, I mean, that sounds like a winner for my laptop.
I think what they were saying is that the Ubuntu developer, what he said is that he
Was
can
that Ubuntu?
Ubuntu,
Yeah.
that the LXQT desktop on Ubuntu can do in, like, if you have a Firefox open on one side, it can do 700 megs of memory, and maybe or 600, and KDE can do 7 or 8. But then Ubuntu actually used more process of the processor,
Yeah.
so it was on the same level. And if you think about, I mean, I'm biased. I'm a KDE user, so well for now anyway.
Yeah.
I have been KDE user for a few months, actually, since I think for half a year or so, and I can tell the stuff that the desktop gives you, if you compare it to something that's considered less of a bloat, like if you compare it to something that's meant to be really lightweight, but where you maybe have to configure your own network manager, or stuff that doesn't come as a usable, like if KDE could basically come pre-installed, or Kadena could come pre-installed on a laptop, and you could sell it to people, and they should be able to work with it. And if it's that little difference between what's supposed to be a very bloat-free distribution, then we might have to redefine some categories. And I think that's what the guys at Ubuntu are doing. That they are trying. Well, we are not the, what is it called? Slim or lightweight.
Oh yeah. They're a lot of them are shying away from saying we're the slim lightweight distribution or whatever.
Well, that's what LXD stands for, isn't it? Lightweight X11 desktop environment.
Yeah, something like that. But, they are not using LXD anymore, because LXD, I think they kind of decided to stay in the last century or something. Sorry.
XFCE are doing something very similar, where they're saying no, we're more. I think it's the same with the LXQT and the XFE team with Ubuntu. They're shying away from the lightweight distribution, and the buzzword that they're going after is actually just occurred to me now, is they're going after modularity. They're saying that we're going after us being the modular desktop. But interesting thing is both LXQT and the XFC desktop team have said that they're going after those kind of dynamics.
And Matt, they don't even want to hear about lightweight anymore. And then we said, like, don't call us lightweight.
Yeah, a friend of many Ubuntu related or Linux related podcast is Martin Wimpress, who's probably one of the biggest developers on Mate, or especially the Ubuntu Mate anyway. He's the lead developer of Ubuntu Mate. He's kind of come out and said that he's saying we're definitely not going after the whole lightweight moniker, because that comes with its own baggage, and if you get locked into being the lightweight distribution, then people will complain when you say, oh, there's this application that is actually really useful, and they're saying, I thought you're supposed to be the lightweight distribution. Why are you including this bloated piece of software? And they're saying, well, yeah, we kind of want to shy. I think he has said that a couple of times. We want to shy away from the whole lightweight thing, because if we get locked into that, then people will start complaining anyway. So
I mean, like any given, like you throw a stone at a bunch of Linux distributions, and the one it hits will probably run on most hardware.
Yeah,
in some form or fashion. Like Linux by nature is lightweight, I think. Like it just.
Well, comparing to Windows 10.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Like it's not, like the amount of hardware that you can run Linux on is vast. So far more vast than any other OS, I would say. So it's like. It's kind of a moot point sometimes, like, because are you talking about like a 10-year-old kind of Dell laptop, or are you talking about something from like the late 80s? Like,
if I can't run it on
how old,
on my knee,
how lightweit are we talking here?
If it doesn't run on my arm straight, I'm not using it.
I mean, to anybody who's listening who's just completely brand new to Linux, to give you an idea, if your laptop or your computer has a Core i anything in it, in other words, from the very first gen, Core i5, Core i3, Core i7, all the way up to modern. Even if you have the very first gen, and you have something like 3 or 4 gigabytes of RAM, pretty much everything that we're mentioning here, including KD Neon, KD Ubuntu, regular Ubuntu with the GNOME desktop environment, it will run perfectly fine on that. When we're talking about older computers, we're talking about like something like a Core 2 Duo with 2 gigs of RAM or something. But even then, something like KD Neon will probably still be able to run on it. I'm not saying it'll run exceeding well, but like
a tad sluggish.
It'll be just a tad sluggish. It'll still be able to browse the web. It will still bring up YouTube. It will still do everything. It will still be a functional environment. But certainly, if it has any kind of I in the processor name, Core I something, guaranteed.
Yeah,
it'll run on it.
That's Linux for you. Like it's if your computer was manufactured in the last 10 to 15 years, Linux will run on it. Like that's just like no question.
Is it the other problem? Could it be that the space where you used to have Ubuntu Mate as of like 2-3 years ago, then Elementary, or was it the other way? I don't know. And now there's Solus, and now Ubuntu are coming into basically the space of distributions that are not standard Ubuntu. They are not Fedora, and they are not SUSE or Debian. They are not the first tier, as in hugeness or vastness. But they are the sort of group of distributions that are very well known, and they have got similar kind of, in my opinion, I don't actually know the numbers, but maybe the same user group size. Like, isn't that space really crowded at this point, where you have a lot of not similar, but a lot of distributions competing for the same customer, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. But
it can be very distracting for new users to have all of these things that are based off each other. It certainly can be intimidating. I know when I was starting off, I was like, oh, this Ubuntu thing. Literally, my origins were, I've heard of this Linux thing, and then start Googling around and said, oh, this Ubuntu thing seems to be related to this Linux thing. And then I was reading like forums, and they said basically there's 2 different versions of it. This was back in 2006 to give you an idea. So basically 2 different versions of it. There's one with GNOME, which was GNOME 2 back when Ubuntu was based off GNOME 2, and there was Kubuntu, which was based off KDE. And they said, okay, if you're used to more the Mac layout, you go with the GNOME layout because it has the bar at the top, and that'd be more familiar to you. And if you're used to Windows layout, you go with KDE because that is the bar at the bottom, and it kind of has a start menu like desktop environment. I essentially just put I never really dual booted with anything that I tried. Even back in 2006, it was go all hog. So I literally put in the disk, and I think I still have the disk. I put in the disk and tried it out. This was KD3, which was god awful, and also the fact that it didn't have the driver for my network card, so I was like, no Wi-Fi, screw that, going back to Windows. But one thing I will, on the point of when you're saying anything that in the last 10 or 15 years Linux will essentially run on it, the only caveat that I'll put on that is if your computer is basically just Intel everything. In other words, if it's Intel graphics, Intel wireless card, Intel the whole way through, it will just work as normal. The only thing is some laptop manufacturers have Belkin, or I forget what it begins with B. Broadcom, that's the one. Wi-Fi card, hit or miss. Some people, in fact, have bought a laptop with Broadcom wireless chips on it, got rid of that, like literally opened it up, unscrewed it, got rid of it, and then just put an Intel one, and then it just works. The Intel ones just tend to be more reliable. With something with more dedicated graphics cards, historically, Nvidia with their proprietary drivers were just, that's the way to go. Regardless of your philosophy of whether you like proprietary software or not, if you did want to do any kind of graphics intensive things such as gaming or graphic design or anything like that, you just had to, there was no real choice, had to go with a Nvidia card with the proprietary drivers. Now AMD seems to be embracing the open source nature, and it's not quite there yet, but certainly with more recent kernel versions, which are 4.17 and 4.18, the very latest bleeding edge versions that are coming out now, have the open source AMD drivers integrated into it. So if you're still deciding with the two, for the moment, if you're literally going out and buying a computer today or tomorrow, I would still go with the NVIDIA graphics card with the proprietary drivers. But if you're thinking long term, if you're thinking in a year or two, I might be switching over to Linux and just doing all my. I would say in a year or two, I'd say AMD are going to overtake them, and the fact that they're open source drivers rather than being proprietary drivers means that they're going to be embraced by the Linux community. But they seem to be coming. I'm not saying they're quite there yet, but seem to be coming in leaps and bounds on the AMD graphics side. And my laptop has just died, or not died, but it's. I just have to log back in.
Oh, okay.
So
let's hope that.
Feel free to talk about yourselves.
Yeah, that's so I'll keep talking as if that hasn't interrupted. I think we're okay. Are we okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Sorry, did I interrupt you there?
No, it's okay. The next, we have another bit of news here. Microsoft Windows as a Service. Oh, what's this all about?
Well, what happens is there are blogs, and so far it's more like rumors or half information. I think it started with Mary Jo Foley's blog that I heard on Linux Action News cited that basically Microsoft is going to charge you monthly for you using Windows, and you get the hardware, but it's basically desktop as a service. I think the idea might not be new. The idea is not new. Other companies do that, not as known, but it's also probably been brewing in Microsoft for a while. Now the question is this going to be another reason for people to switch to something else? For example, Linux.
I think people always like to say that. They like to say, "Oh, this is the death knell of proprietary OSs," and this is what they're going to get. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot when they do this. But it never really happens that way. Like, people just kind of get used to the new status quo, I think, and they just sort of accept it. Mainly because they don't know that there's another option out there. Like most people using their computers day to day, they don't really care. They're just once they're like, okay, we'll pay Microsoft this monthly fee. That sucks, but whatever. But most people don't look any further than that. They just think, I want to use my computer. How do I do that? And I think so. How people like us need to jump on this stuff now is to be right there. Just like when people start grumbling about it. Well, actually. I have an alternative if you give me a few moments, it has Steam. You can still play games. So it's really important to be there with the alternative straight away. And I don't really know how that's going to work on a larger scale, other than just people like us who are already interested in it, suggesting it to our friends or family or whatever. But this is. Obviously they win. Like Microsoft do. Obviously, they think they will make money from this. I mean, is this like a business, like enterprise type thing, or is this a personal computing?
I think both. I think the thing here is that they are. Some time ago they said they wouldn't want to. They turned Microsoft Windows into a rolling release, kinda.
Yes, they're saying Windows 10 is the last version of Windows we're going to release. There's not going to be a Windows 11.
How do you keep charging for this? That's the thing.
True.
So they need some kind of revenue stream, I guess they think, and maybe they will figure, because they are doing something like this with the Surfaces, I think, maybe in the States.
His name is escaping at the moment, but the CEO of Microsoft,
Nadella.
He basically cut his teeth in the Office 365 section. So in other words, he's the Office 365 champion, and they're like, okay, so that is making us a shit ton of money. We're looking for a CEO. Okay, now he's the CEO. So you imagine coming from that background, he's thinking, I wonder, can I do this with Windows?
And subscription services like Microsoft is a subscription services when it comes to Office,
Yeah.
when it comes to Azure. So they probably also maybe they would be able to subsidize the devices. So you go to PC World and instead of splashing out, I don't know, 400, 500 quid on a consumer-based hardware, you get it for 100. I'm making this up, right? But
Yeah.
you get it for 150, like your phone, and for the period, as long as you have it, you pay, I don't know, 50 quid. 50 euros, 60 euros every month. Whatever they might throw in with it, something maybe, and then next time you get another computer, it's not gonna be 600 euros. It's gonna be again 150. I imagine. Don't know.
That's an interesting point because historically, when you're buying a computer, they called it the Windows tax or whatever. It was when you're buying a computer, the €100 license for Windows was included in the retail price. In other words, between Microsoft and the vendor, be it Lenovo, HP, Compaq, whoever you're buying it from, they just passed that on to the consumer. And there was a historical argument of, with Linux, this is free. You don't have to pay any kind of license fee. For the average consumer, especially since if Microsoft are getting rid of you have to pay up front for the €100 license or whatever, and that's just going to be included in this subscription, or we're going to even subsidize the hardware itself. We're doing a deal with the OEM of Windows, HP or whoever it is. That would even make it even more enticing. Unfortunately, rather than the whole thing of Linux is free, like you can literally not pay the Microsoft license. And I think in some European countries, I think it was even was a gentleman initially, like he went in, bought a computer, and this was, I'm talking about 5-6 years ago, but he went in and bought a computer, and he literally had photographic evidence or whatever evidence that was enough evidence for the court to say, when the end user license agreement came up, saying he was clicking no, saying no, I reject this license, and he's saying I never wanted Windows on this computer, but this was the only option I had, and I want a refund of the Microsoft license that I was forced to pay because it was the only computer that the only option I had was to buy a computer with this license included, including the €100 or whatever it was. And I think it went all the way into the court, and he ended up getting a refund off Microsoft. And I think, and because of that, I think in some European countries, may even possibly be Germany, there a lot is particularly online. There's a no OS version. Or what they do is if it's not a no OS, they'll include a free OS, and what it invariably is FreeDOS, which is just a very basic operating system. As in other words, we'll sell you this with FreeDOS already pre-installed, and then you install whatever you want on top of it, rather than it being a no OS. Because I think there might be backlash of it being no OS, of people going and saying, I paid for this computer but it doesn't work or it doesn't function as a computer, I can't do anything on it. Then they'll probably covering themselves on both sides.
Yeah, I had a situation years ago when I built my first PC. Actually, like I was going through the forum, and it was this like custom PC place quite near my house actually, and I was looking through and I was going, oh yeah, I'll have one of those. I was building my ideal PC within my budget, and then I got to the end. It was like operating system, and it was like, and I just managed to keep it under the line of my budget, and it was like Windows 7 license, or whatever. I think it was Windows 7 at the time, and the license was like an extra £100.
Yeah,
and I was like, no. And I said, screw that, I'll just buy the PC and I'll just put Linux Mint on it, screw you guys. And I did, and I happily used that PC for like 2-3 years before I ever needed to use Windows again. Like, and so, if only people would know how easy it is.
Yeah, well, it's obviously if you're buying the parts yourself, or even there's I think they might be US based, but there are essentially there's web pages where they're saying we source all the parts ourselves, and we even design our own cases, and so others are the computer case, you would have our name on it if you want, and but we'll also sell other computer cases. But what they say is, you just essentially tick all the boxes, and then we'll build it and we'll send it out to you. I'm sure those is like, we can pick whatever operating system you want, including no operating system. But for the Joe or Jane blogs who are literally just going to PC World or whoever it is and saying, these are all the laptops, and I want that laptop at this price, and it's always a HP laptop or Dell laptop or whatever it is, and it will include that, and there isn't that option, but it would never be, I wouldn't say never, but it's certainly not currently in physical stores. But there are options. If you're listening in North America, there's a place called System 76, and they will sell you laptops, desktop PCs with Linux, Ubuntu already pre-installed on it. And for people over this side of the pond, there's a company over in the UK called Enterware, and they will do something very similar. And I'm sure, I think there's a German equivalent as well, where they'll the name escapes me at the moment, but I think we'll do the exact same thing, where you will pick a pre-configured PC, laptop or whatever, and they will put Ubuntu and Linux on it, and that's all they put on. They don't put Windows on any of their computers. So there's always options out there if you do not want to pay the €100 license or whatever it is.
I was very impressed with this German website I saw before. I remember lots of PC nerds used to go there because it was super cheap. Hardwareversand.de,
Yeah.
do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Before it went tits up.
Yeah.
And but like you had to pay by bank transfer and all this crap. Like,
yeah,
that was weird. But like, but yeah, like they actually, I think they did have an option to install Linux on it for you instead of Windows.
I
pretty nice.
believe on my a lot of my components from my desktop PC, I think I actually did order them from Hardwareversand. Yeah, it was very good. I can't remember off the top of my head, was it all they did was just sell you the individual parts, or was there an option to we'll build it for you?
They did have an additional option to assemble it for you,
Yeah.
for an extra fee. I think it was an extra 30 quid or 50 quid maybe.
Oh, genie, if I'd known that for an extra, it was only an extra 30 quid.
I mean, I was super excited about putting it together myself, but then I got it and I was like, yeah, this is fun and all, but this is stressing me out.
No, especially when you're getting to the motherboard stage where everything's really delicate and you're like one false move and especially with static electricity, I could literally just fuck up this entire thing.
Yeah,
it can be quite stressful.
It's nerve wracking. It'd be less nerve wracking if everything you were handling wasn't so expensive, but like you're just
not necessarily expensive, but certainly delicate. So in other words, one false move, and particularly on the motherboard, and literally nothing works. But yeah, especially with the all the little screws and everything, you're like
yeah, constantly like redoing things. Have I
Yeah.
done that right? Like, am I pressing enough? Am I not pressing enough? Like, what's happening here?
yeah. So essentially, if you find a website that will sell you the components individually, but for an extra fee, if it's something like 50 quid, it would quite nearly be worth it just to have. It might actually cost more in shipping if it's pre-assembled in the one box. It might cost more in shipping rather than shipping the individual parts. So that's another thing to factor in as well. And also the delicate nature of shipping a pre-assembled box versus the individual components. But your mileage may vary. Depending on whether you think it's worth it or not, the extra fee that they charge for pre-assembly might actually be worth it.
Yeah. I think as much as I enjoy PC building, I've assembled I think 3 of them at this point, and I don't need any more years off my life. Like I think I'll just let the professionals do it next time.
I think my PC at the moment, bar quite possibly upgrading the graphics card, which is a simple enough upgrade. It's literally unscrew something, get rid of it, prop in a new thing. But if it's something drastic like replacing the motherboard, because there's a new fancy CPU out and my motherboard doesn't support it, and so if you want that CPU, you're going to have to replace the motherboard. something like that, I would nearly say, okay, could you just not just assemble it for me?
Exactly.
Go into a shop like a PC repair shop or something like that, and just slipping a guy like 20 quid or something. Would you not just assemble this for me?
Yeah. So, shall we move on to some other topics?
Yeah, certainly.
I believe we have some discussions to have. I'm just reading what's written here.
I believe this is one that Mike put in, but in relation to the whole jailbreaking culture, and if you have bought something, let's say an Amazon Kindle or an iPhone or your Android phone or something like that, should you have the right, or should you have the capability of customizing it and putting new software on it if you wish to?
I was really excited to talk about this actually, because I was explaining to my girlfriend last night. I was like I was reading the notes for this show, and it was like, and she was like, oh, what's that all about? What's jailbreaking? What is that like? And I was like, well, basically, I said that this is something I'm very passionate about. I think if you buy a product, like this laptop here, if you buy this and take it home, it's mine.
Yeah,
I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. Like, it's mine. Like, it's like, get your hands off my property, basically. It's like don't put all these like strings attached to this product that I have bought with my own money. Like, if I want to take the damn thing apart and I put it back together a different way, that's my business. I can put whatever software I want on it. I can mess with it however I please. Like, I really don't think it's almost like intellectual property is extending into reality. Like, it's so weird. Like, I just don't get it. It's purely there just so people can make money off this stuff. Like if you want to send it to a professional who knows how to fix it and you don't know how to do it, then fine. That's like, if that's a service that's offered, that's great. But like, if I have some knowledge and I manage to open up the case and fix something and then put it back together, and then maybe I come across a more serious problem a few months down the line and I don't know how to fix that, and then I send it off to them saying, no, sorry, you've opened the case, you voided your warranty. It's like, what? What am I paying for? I just don't think it's very fair. Like, something I feel pretty strongly about.
Certainly in relation to software, I would certainly agree with you saying that because on my own phone over there, I have put Lineage OS, which isn't what the version of, it's based off Android, but it isn't the Android that OS that came with it. Certainly agree with you in relation to software, but in terms of hardware, to a certain extent, I can sort of see the manufacturer side of things of, this is the way we designed it, and if you're messing around with it, if you're putting in other components or whatever, we cannot honour the warranty because you've changed the internals of it.
Oh yeah, well I guess that's fair enough. Yeah, I suppose.
So much so that again, back to Windows, sometimes. I think they're fine with replacing things like hard drives and things like that, but I think Windows will take a stamp of your motherboard, and that's the way they work out their licensing and saying, okay, I bought or built my own PC and it needs an operating system. I know I'm going to pay the €100 and put Windows on it, and so the way they track of saying, making sure that you don't put that €100 version on multiple computers, or you've bought an individual license and put it on multiple computers, versus if you bought, let's say, a 10 license and they'll be fine with that, it's down to the motherboard. And there's been cases where they have to prove that no, my motherboard died, I'm going to have to replace the motherboard, but it's all like, this is my own PC.
I had to do that,
and there is, I think, recorded cases of them having to prove, saying, no, this is still the same PC, but my motherboard went tits up and I had to replace it, and now this is a new version. Can I still maintain my version of Windows?
I swapped out my hard drive before, and I swapped the same hard drive over to a new computer.
Yeah.
And I was like, getting rid of the old one, I was selling it, and like, I didn't, in fairness, I didn't have that much bother getting them getting a new license key or whatever. Like it did come up like this is we've detected this isn't the same PC or whatever it said at the time. But and as they call this number, and I called them, I was like, I just swapped the hard drive into like my new PC, and but it's still only on one PC. Like I'm not putting it on multiple PCs, but they didn't seem to have a problem. They were like, just go click on this, give us this number, and then we'll give you a code to put in, and then it just worked. It was fine.
I'm just saying they do have but certainly in relation to software, I would agree with you to a certain extent. The examples here that Mike has put in, I think is you're saying that you recently got a Kindle and you're thinking that I should be able to put a version of Linux on it or something like that, or something more.
I say even a version of Linux. So come on, the thing is cheap and relatively dumb compared to a computer, right? But Amazon do this thing that they say, well, it's €66. You buy it, and they will put adverts on the lock screen. It's an e-ink, so it never goes completely dark unless you turn it off. So whenever I whip it up in public, there's an image.
I think you can pay an extra 10 or 20 initially and say we will sell you a non-advertised version.
I was actually, so you can jailbreak the thing, but there are problems with this because it's a kind of an enormous situation where Amazon issue a new firmware and you can't jailbreak the one that I have and whatever. And I'm really worried about breaking it if I try jailbreaking, about bricking it, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, I went to Amazon and they said, well, okay, we replace it with, or we unsubscribe you from the special offers.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I wouldn't mind if they were actually tailored to me, but you are showing me some romance books and I would never read it anyway. And I'm actually embarrassed to take it out in public because it just shows some books I would never read. But should I...
50 Shades of Grey.
Seriously, stuff like that, right? And I'm thinking, well, I bought it from them for a price that they say. I didn't see anywhere in the store, it was in Currys or Dixon's or whatever, I didn't see anywhere you are an offer that I could buy it for extra money without a subscription. I didn't actually look for it, so maybe it was there somewhere and I overlooked it or whatever.
I believe it is the case, but continue,
but could they? Is it? It's so ridiculous that you can't even change the pictures on the thing. Is it too much, or is it their prerogative since they are making basically a hardware extension of their cloud service? Like, should we demand the right to change stuff like that in software, because this is not hardware? They were able to switch it off from their call center. So should we be allowed to demand demand that we can change anything software wise that is not, say, 3G radio on a piece of hardware, or is it too a radical idea?
I suppose it depends where what are they trying to protect? Like, what is Amazon trying to protect when they're locking down a Kindle? I think what they're what they want to keep on there is the DRM software.
Yeah.
So I think what they don't want you messing about with the software, because you could then get a load of EPUB files off BitTorrent and stick it on, and that's what they don't want.
You can do that anyway. I bought a Humble Bundle DRM free and send them to my Kindle, and it works perfectly. You can wrap a website as Mobi EPUB book and send it to it. It will still work. What I'm thinking is, and also Firefox lets you watch Netflix. That has the DRM written thing, so you don't. That they could use it without.
They will. Firefox does respect the DRM in that.
Yeah, but Firefox itself is free software, and I can uninstall Firefox if I wanted to. Yeah. In any, or so it doesn't. It from that point of view, I think they are being a bit too. I don't know, bit too tight with their rules.
It's kind of a fine line, yeah. I mean, most people, I think it's very hard to know what's what they should be doing, because I think the ideal situation I'd like to see would be if you buy a device off a company with software you don't like, and there just so happens to be like a modded version or an alternate version on like designed by someone else, by the community or something, and you should be able to go say, okay, well, you maybe enable developer access or something, or just open it up a bit more, like if you so choose. Most people probably wouldn't bother, but like
the vast majority of people are just wouldn't even care.
Exactly. So you're talking about a tiny fraction of the market that
tinkers
people like us who would probably bother to do this in the first place. So I don't really see how they're losing out if we think, right, well, we don't like your software, we don't like your stupid ads, so we're going to put on this nice little community developed version that does all the same things and better. So why should they care? I mean, what are they afraid of is what I'm wondering.
I think it could benefit them if they open source that. Obviously, I mean, I would think that, right? But if they open source the Kindle Film Wrap or whatever they call the operating system, people could actually improve it as well. Even people who are not exactly into free software on the Kindle forum say, well, I'm thinking of jailbreaking because then I can put my own pictures as a lock screen image, because even after they've taken away the ads, you still don't have you cannot import your own images. You get some screensavers that are on it, right? Some pictures of pens and pencils. But they also say, well, I would also like a sane PDF reader because the one that's on it is rubbish. So and people could improve it for Amazon with no cost to them. But then, for some reason, they don't like the idea of it.
The hilarious thing is actually the Kindle software is actually a stripped down Linux distro, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably is. Yeah. What else would it be?
What else would run on something that efficient, that small? One compromise, I'm not saying they're ever going to do it, but one compromise that I could see would work is the Kindle that arrives is like, okay, this is running our software, be the subsidized version saying, okay, this is running our advertisements, blah 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 blah. It could be even deep in the settings, and it could be a toggle saying, there be dragons. Like if you toggle this, you're on your own. This will open it up if you want to flash something new on it, but your warranty is completely null and void beyond this point. I think a lot of people will be like, yeah, fine. It just means Amazon will just say, we don't know from this point onwards, we don't know what software is on it because we didn't develop it ourselves. So naturally we're not going to support it because we can't just bring it into our support center and say, well, we know what this is because this is our own software. We're going to do. If it says there, like, caution, there be dragons beyond this point, your warranty is void, then I think that'll be perfectly okay.
Yeah, tinkerers are all too familiar with consequences, but well, like, what you want is the option.
Yeah.
Like, you don't give a shit if there's a big fat disclaimer that says, you're dead to us if you do this. But like, if you just give us the option.
Yeah.
I mean, even if the point of no return, so be it. Like, like whatever. We just want the option. That's all.
Yeah, I'd be in agreement with that. Yeah, certainly.
I tried to do that with my Kobo e-reader, my old one, which is amazing. Like, I don't know if you can do this with a Kindle, but I had a Kobo Mini. It's a really old e-reader. You just pry off the back of the case, undo like 6 screws, and there's actually a tiny little micro SD card that holds the OS. And you just take that out and you can just flash it with something new or put in a brand new one if you want.
Yeah. Don't think you can do that with a Kindle now.
I think the Kindle is I don't think there's even any.
There's no screws.
Yeah, user accessible screws.
I saw a guy who put I saw this guy who put Debian on a Kobo e-reader.
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. I know you can jailbreak a Kindle as well, but I think to pry it open, you'd have to take a heat gun to it and then buy by e-ink really because. But no. Yeah.
Certain, and that applies to anything from obviously the very nature of the fact that I think they went through this whole thing with PCs, personal computers, in the 80s or early 90s, where basically I think it was Compaq reverse engineered the design of the Amazon PC, and then from then on it was then there was the holy grail of it's an IBM version or it's Compaq version. Then after a while, like everyone basically just copied the compact version, and essentially, and then there was a court case, and essentially just said that, listen, this is an open platform, like do whatever you want.
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So the very idea of the fact that Windows cannot force you to say, no, this is a locked down computer, this will only run Windows. Or Microsoft cannot do that because of I think it was this court case that happened.
You guys should definitely check out a show called Halt and Catch Fire. Have you ever watched that?
No.
No, it's really good. It's not a I think it's like an AMC show.
Okay.
But, like the first season of that is basically what you're describing, like the early to mid 80s,
Yeah.
and like IBM are basically ruling the roost in terms of personal, like home computing. So it's all about, like, they basically reverse engineer the IBM by, like, they literally go through it's really cool, like it's a real nerdy show, like, and they they basically extract the binary from the EPROMs or whatever they are on the motherboard, like the little chips, like they extract the binary, and they, like, it's amazing, like a really cool show. But they reverse engineer the IBM home computer, and there's a whole, like, legal battle and stuff, but interesting show. Halt and Catch Fire.
One thing that I definitely do want to talk about, and it's something I think Mike also added in, was the Mozilla's new design philosophy, and this whole thing. I did have a look at it. There's if you click on the link there, I don't know if these links will be available in any kind of show notes or anything like that. But the Mozilla Open Design, and they have two different tiers, which they're calling System 1 and System 2, which I think are not the best names in the world. But my strikeout thing was for System 1, for their overall icon, it just looks too much like the GitLab logo.
Or the Wiley Fox logo.
The System 2 is more close to the current Firefox icon, and I actually don't mind the current Firefox icon, so I'm not necessarily saying that they should need a redesign, but if they were going to do a redesign, I would definitely be leaning towards System 2 because it's closer to the current Firefox icon rather than being a complete and utter drastic change. So I don't know if this is just a thought experiment on their blog, if they're actually going to implement any of these ideas, or are they just looking for feedback. Hopefully they're just looking for feedback, and it's probably not good. They had recently they redesigned Firefox itself, so if they're going to redesign Firefox and redesign the logo, I think it's been too much. So hopefully they're going to stick with the current redesign of Firefox and the current logo for another 3 to 4 years at least, and maybe this is just something that's a thought experiment from sometime in the future. So what are you guys' thoughts on the whole?
I don't think so. I had a massive rant, mostly in my own head, and then a bit on Telegram, and then actually I made a post, but I think they didn't approve the post, even though I wasn't cussing or anything. But basically, from the language of the post, not the design language of the things, but the language, the English it's written in, evolving the Firefox brand. Obviously, somebody has taken over the Mozilla design offices, and those people are able to say things like, working across traditional silos, we are designing a system that can guide people smoothly from our marketing to our in-product experiences. Now, since Mozilla is allowing this to appear on their blog, this must have been an intent. So they are actually doing this. They say this is not a crowdsourced idea, or this is not an attempt for crowdsourcing ideas. This is them saying, which one do you like better, and we are gonna take your opinion. It's not a vote, but we are gonna take your opinion into account. And there is a massive discussion underneath it. People saying, yes, I like this, or I like that.
Well, it is credited with the Tim Murray, the creative director at Mozilla, towards the end. So if somebody that's going all the way up to the creative director, it doesn't seem like it's some intern at the weekend says, "Hey, what do you guys think of this?" I think it's definitely some kind of intent. But there is a lot of marketing buzzwordy language in it. So I don't know if it was meant to be just put out there within the design community, or was it supposed to be picked up by the wider techosphere?
Well, I don't know. I don't obviously know how Mozilla works, but I imagine that because it's not a corporation and nothing is really that tight in there, or it's a corporation, but it's not. It's a non-profit. So I'd imagine they have a group of people who came together, saying we like design and marketing, and we would like to work for Mozilla and do this branding thing. That's what I imagine. That's where it come from. Now, obviously, these people use this in this language, and they create things like System 1 and System 2. I personally actually don't like either of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't like either of them.
It's a bit of cookie cutter kind of meat, 3-year-olds, color pencils. I don't know. It's a bit too. It's a bit weird actually, especially the System 2 is.
It's a bit too over designed or something. Like there's too much color gradients and shit going on. Like, I mean, I love the original Firefox logo, and they redesigned it not too long ago, as far as I know. Like,
yeah, that was reading what I was saying. Is
like that's a beautiful logo. Like, look at it. It's just there. It's just nice.
And everyone knows what it is, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of experience? What else do? They have a web browser, and a good one. I mean, I use it every day. But what other in-product experience do they offer? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's kind of
they've put
highfalutin term.
They
really.
put Thunderbird out to tender because it was under the Mozilla Corporation, which is the for-profit. As in other words, this is for-profit. We can actually pay developers full-time salary. Blah 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 blah. And the Thunderbird is now under the Mozilla Foundation, which is a non-profit overarching the Mozilla Corporation. But it just means that you guys are out by yourself, like in terms of you're under the legal protection of the Mozilla Foundation. In other words, the copyright, everything is all still in house. But in terms of funding, in terms of everything like that, I think Thunderbird are now doing sponsorship or donorship drives because they no longer are under the payroll of the Mozilla Corporation. Whereas Firefox, you're right. I think Firefox itself, or is the main main focus of the Mozilla Corporation.
Well, if I look at it right, so there's halfway through or whatever, there is System 1 icons for new apps and services and System 2 icons for new apps and services. So they are considering having new apps and services. So if you look at the logos, there is a kind of a parachute or maybe a gallowing. So are they an airline or no? It's like, so I don't know what that is. Then there's clearly some kind of a mail icon, so that's probably
For
Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Then some like a keyhole or an asterisk that could be a password entry.
It's like a camera lens aperture type thing. Like that's an interesting one.
Yeah. So are they gonna do like Google kind of services where they will be hosting your pictures? Maybe
The key. Maybe they're getting into security.
authentication. Maybe they already have that
two-factor,
before.
yeah.
But like, I'm more interested in the services than if Mozilla does something, because now if this was Microsoft, I couldn't give two craps even if I use their subject, because they have their own money. They don't need a community, but Mozilla is a community organization. They are one of the very big players in our world, right? So they are important. Now, they also happen to make the only, or at least for me, the only viable alternative to Google Chrome, which I use, and I use Firefox every day. So I would like them to, keep focusing on the browser, and not repeat tragedies of the past like Firefox OS, which is
Mozilla in the past have been doing the splattergun effect of just throwing things at a wall and seeing what, and they have of the last year or two have refocused. Whatever the reasoning behind putting Thunderbird out to pasture and separating that out to outside of the Mozilla Corporation, but the fact that they're redoubling down, refocusing on Firefox, I think is a good thing. These icons seem to suggest that they're going to spread their focus again, which I think is probably a bad thing, considering their mistakes of the past. In which case, just freaking bring Thunderbird back into the fold.
Yeah. Maybe they're going to have another shot at Firefox OS because there's some screenshots here. I don't know how telling all this is. This could just be,
I think this
theoretical.
is just a design exercise.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because they definitely have smartphone screenshots.
Yeah,
there.
but this is. I don't think they are going to put Firefox OS.
I guess that's
on a
probably Android,
Samsung. On a Samsung Galaxy S9, or whatever this is. And, well, Firefox OS, actually, interestingly, is now the second most popular OS in India.
Oh, India, sorry.
Because not under the name, though, because an Indian company released a lot of feature phones running their own branded KaiOS. Which is KaiOS, which is basically based on Firefox OS, and they are so cheap and so popular that they overtaken iOS in India.
Wow!
And they're third in the world, but not third in the world as in 1 and 2, and then 1% is number 3. It's third in the world as in they have a fairly significant chunk.
Because there's a ton of people in India. I mean, for stating the obvious.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Essentially, it boils down to it's kind of a feature phone OS that has some smart integrations in the big apps that you want, as in Twitter, WhatsApp, so on and so forth, is available on this platform. So it's not completely an utter open platform, as in you can write your own app and you can install whatever you want. It is fairly it's fairly locked down, fairly the word I'm not can't think of the word at the moment, but they're very picky about what applications they let in. But the big ones like your Instagram, your Twitter, or whatever, those are in, and also the fact that it is 4G capable, because obviously even though it's a feature phone OS, the 2G networks and eventually the 3G networks are going to be turned off, and it's going to be 4G and 5G. So it's straight out of the bat. It is has 4G capability integrated into the operating system as well. Naturally, the hardware as well that it's running on, but despite the fact it's a feature phone OS.
And I think Google dropped recently 20 mil on it. So
Google are actually investing in it as well.
And but then that's Mozilla lost on this, because they developed something a lot of people are going to use, but Mozilla is never going to see anything from it. I doubt that it's going to even run Firefox. So it's an interesting development, but I wonder what could it did them.
We seem to be mentioning quite a lot of things that it would be uswill for people to look up after the show if they're curious. So as much as we can, we will try to put these links in some sort of show notes or something like that. We've yet to figure out if it's going to be a website or just a Google Doc that we send out to people, or whatever it is. But we will endeavour to have some kind of show notes with all of these links to the topics that we're talking about as they appear. Needless to say, we won't be perfect, so if there are things that are missing, feel free to get in contact with us, and we'll try to include them, or just reply to your email with the relevant link. Is info@dlug or info@dublinlinux.org is the email address, so that's info@dublinlinux.org. Even though, as I said, this is not directly affiliated with the Dublin Linux group, but that's the best way for the moment anyway.
Yeah, so I think we have a few short announcements.
Public service announcements.
Public service announcements. Yes, all three of us plus Tad, who isn't here, is we are going to be at OggCamp 18 in Sheffield. So that's on Saturday, August 18th to Sunday, August 19th, and it's a free culture unconference, which basically means you can show up and do a talk on whatever you like. It's kind of Linux and open source focused, I guess, but it can. I've seen talks about it. I saw a guy do a talk on how to be a good salesman last year. Just random, very random.
It's already next week.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's 2
Bloody
weeks
hell,
away.
it's getting really close.
Yeah,
Yeah, so whenever this episode gets published, it's
it might be out.
yeah.
It might it might still be in the future, or it might have passed. In which case, gee, that was a great experience.
Just got back from our camp. Yeah. I'm beat. Ooh.
Boy, am I hungover.
Yeah, so that's great. That's something we're all going to be at. So yeah, hopefully you guys can make it. If not, oh well.
Potentially, we will see you at Camp 19 or any future versions. But yeah,
If you live in Dublin, though, where we're always gathering in the Longstone pub every month on, what is it, the fourth Saturday of every month?
the fourth Saturday of every month, and again, this is the Dublin Linux user group that we're all organisers in. If you want to actually come around and have a pint with us or just chat with us, anything Linux related, as we're organisers of the Dublin Linux user group, we tend to do that. So again, just a plug for the Dublin Linux user group, the fact that we're all organisers in it. We do monthly meetups.
Now, a valid question though: is there ever a month that doesn't have 4 Saturdays?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
because the shortest month in the calendar is February, and it has got 28 days, so that's exactly 7 times 4.
So it
Yeah.
must have at
Yeah.
least 4 Saturdays. In a month.
So, and also the reason why we say the fourth Saturday of the month, because we resisted the fact that we say the last Saturday of the month, because some months have 5 Saturdays.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Right.
that's a nice little axiom for life, isn't it? Like, no month will have less than 4 Saturdays. You know.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah. Anybody got anything else?
May you never have less than 4 Saturdays. I don't know how you pronounce it, but the public service announcement, Mike, you handed it.
Oh yeah, the academy in Vienna in Austria. That is basically this weekend, and none of us are going, but people interested in KDE development might still probably get in.
And again, this could be in the past.
This could be in the past, yeah. So if
we might not release this for like 2 months.
yeah, kickstart your TARDIS and go back to Vienna.
Yeah.
How about our discovery into Linux story? What makes you enthused about Linux, and what are your first thoughts in relation? I briefly talked about it earlier when I was talking about 2006, when I was kind of saying, what is this whole Linux thing, and put in a CD. My whole thing was I've heard about this free operating system, and this was free as in gratis, not necessarily free as in freedom. The whole freedom philosophy was something that I discovered later, but it was like, free, that's my favourite kind of price. So the whole idea of, wait, there's an operating system and you don't have to pay for upgrades, and you don't have to pay, so that part of it was mainly because I was a very poor student at the time, that appealed to me. And off and on since then, since as I said, 2006, it's almost over 10 years ago, nearly 12 years ago at this stage, and off and on has just been flicking back between Windows and Linux. I kind of tried Linux for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, then eventually find a program that I just really missed from Windows, go screw this whole Linux thing and go back to Windows, and then as those things became less and less frequent, I then gradually just switched full time. So I've been full time on Linux for about the last 2 years or so, on all my computers, this current laptop, and I have a desktop computer as well. So Shane, why don't you talk about your...
Yeah, I was very similar, probably around the same time as well, like 2006, 2007. I don't really know how I first heard of Linux. I think it was just, I heard it somewhere, like just Linux. Oh, what's that? And then I think I bought a magazine or something that had a cover disc on it with like a live CD. I think it was like Linux Format or something like that. Linux magazine maybe. I didn't really understand a lot of what was in the magazine at the time, but I put in, and I had one of these live CDs that had like, I had like 5 or 6 distros on the same CD. It was really cool. Like it was like a multi-distros. I don't know how the hell they did that, but like
not big back in the day. Or
yeah, it was crazy. And like I tried them out, and I can't remember what I tried first. I think it was just like Ubuntu. Like I think that's where everyone began really. It was Ubuntu or what was that one then? Mandriva or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mandrake, which I think eventually became Mandriva.
Oh yeah, I think it was Mandrake at the time.
Mandrake at the time.
Yeah. And I tried a bunch of them out, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And I just what attracted me to it was that I could change everything. Like
the modularity is good.
Because we went through 2 or 3 home computers when I was a kid because I kept like messing around with system settings and breaking them. So I was like, "Oh, great! There's no consequences here." So yeah, that's what got me into it. That's what made me stay in it as well, was basically just that the choice and the just the level of customization, and just it's just more interesting than using Windows. It's like, because I want to know how everything works. I want to know what's going on under the hood. If I don't know why that thing does that thing, I want to find out. Like I don't just use something and let that be that. I need to have more control over it.
Well, so I suppose it appeals to the tinkerer in all of us. The very fact that if you don't like the desktop environment that's in front of you, whether it's KDE, Gnome, or XFCE or whatever, you can open up your terminal and install a new desktop environment, reboot your computer, or log out and log back in, and you can have the option in your menu to say, try this new desktop environment. Same thing of if your file manager, you don't like your file manager, you can install a new one. There's ones like PCman FM, which are quite very lightweight. So in others, if you want to say my file manager is too light on resources, or in terms of, or light on features and too heavy on resources, there's PCman FM, which is actually quite good, and I think it's compiled for both the GTK and Qt environment. So even if you're on KDE, you can use PCman FM. On that point, I actually one stage, an interesting anecdote was I was on KDE, and KDE by default, I don't know if they fix it now, but there was no right click or open in terminal, or even if I did it from the command line and said sudo dolphin, ran into some kind of error, and I couldn't really figure it out. So I literally just installed PCman FM Qt and like saying, this is my way around it. So Mike, why don't you lay this down?
Yeah, just by the way, the KDE thing, that wasn't a bug. That was Jonathan Riddell's the creator of KDE Neon, and he had this opinion that people shouldn't be running a window manager, not window manager, a file manager, file browser as a root. So he removed that functionality. Now it's back in because people wanted it. But if even back in the day, you still could run Crusader, which is like a 2-pane with root mode. So but it's back in now. So my origin story, is that what we're calling it?
Discovery story is
Discovery
what I've put down in the show notes anyway.
I first saw Linux like in the early 2000s, and I tried to install it on an old Toshiba laptop in about 2004. I spent a night doing it, and in the end the audio wouldn't work. So there must have been Mandrake. So I gave up on it, and then rediscovered it circa 2007 when I was working in an office, and I had this. I was given this laptop with Windows XP to work with, but I couldn't install it. But the horrible thing wouldn't let me do things, and I hated the closed door that that they were there for reasons that because I wasn't allowed to open them. So when I was getting my own laptop, I promptly installed installed Ubuntu. It was 2008, so it was Hardy Heron 804. Very, very beautiful brown orange thing.
So much brown.
It was an amazing journey from then. Even though I got briefly distracted by the shiny and deserted to a Mac for 2 years in the middle, but it's just
squirrel.
I did come back because with Linux, especially you look at something and you, as you said, Shane, you can never. There's nothing stopping you from discovering how things work, and then you're not only confined to some applications that someone else makes specifically for your desktop, because even though if you want to run a full-blown, if you want to try running a full-blown email server, it feels like you don't have to hire a data center, which back in the day there was no DigitalOcean, so you couldn't just have a simple VPS, but you could try it on your computer. It wouldn't be fast, and it wouldn't be efficient, but you would see how things work, and it's an amazing learning platform. And it teaches you computing rather than teaching you Microsoft Office or any other specific software.
It's not as commoditized. It's not a product. It's you're learning the systems. You're learning the actual computing, as you said. You're not learning how to use this product.
And the thing is that this is made started as a hobby project, and the thing is that it is still a community project with roots in it, especially maybe not the kernel anymore, but it's still contributed by, and it's not exactly the most corporate principle that runs it. Still, it's a trade association that makes it, and the desktop environments, many of these things are just made by contributors who volunteer their time and who do it because they enjoy doing it. And the fact that I work on Linux in an office job, and I am capable of doing exactly the same work as my Windows colleagues, and we are not like programmers or developers. So and the fact that I can sit next to them using a Linux workstation and I can do exactly the same work. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And it just shows the strength of the community, and it's a great experience to be able to use Linux.
I'm just looking at the recording here. This part here definitely probably won't make it into the recording, but we've just gone over about 1 hour 15 minutes and thereabouts, maybe slightly more. So it's probably a good place as any to wrap this up. I think we've pretty much covered most of our topics, and I think that actually went pretty well. So I think we'll call it an evening here.
Yeah.
All right.
So. I've been Shane.
I've been Connor.
I've been Mike.
And once again, if you want to get in contact with us, just feedback in relation to this specific episode, we will, if we come up with better contact links, we will let you know if there's ever another one of these. info@dublinlinux.org is our dublinlinux.org email address.
Telegram.
Oh, the dublinlinux.org/telegram is our telegram, and there's various other means.
See you later.
See ya.
Later.